June 4th, 2026, 14,000 feet. Mount McKinley. A National Park Service ranger fell into a crevasse on a routine climbing patrol. She was the 5th person to die on that mountain in 8 days. Mount McKinley is not an easy mountain. It is not a peak with a gondola at the top, not a summit you stroll up on a clear afternoon. At 20,310 feet above sea level, it is the highest mountain in North America. The climbing season runs from late April through mid-July, and in any given year, only about 1,000 to 1,200 people attempt it. In 2025, just 2 climbers died on the mountain for the entire season. But in the spring of 2026, something had gone terribly wrong. But the death of Robin Pendry was not simply the tragic end to a dangerous season. The part I find most disturbing about this story is that it was not one catastrophic event that made headlines, but a cascade of separate tragedies, one after another, unfolding across a single week on the same mountain. This is the brutal 2026 update on Mount McKinley's deadliest stretch in years. Welcome to Tourist Tragedies. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what the 2026 climbing season on Mount McKinley looked like before everything fell apart. The West Buttress route, the most popular path to the summit, had drawn hundreds of climbers from around the world. By late May, there were 516 registered climbers on the mountain, not 500 casual hikers. 516 serious mountaineers, many of whom had been training for years and spending tens of thousands of dollars on permits, equipment, and flights to Talkeetna, Alaska, the small town that serves as the staging point for almost every McKinley expedition. The part I find striking about the early weeks of the season is how ordinary things looked. The weather was cooperating, teams were making progress, the mountain felt manageable. That is the thing about Mount McKinley that never shows up in the trip reports. It is not simply the summit elevation that makes it dangerous. It is the sheer unpredictability of everything above 12,000 feet, where weather can change in under an hour, and the consequences of a single misstep are measured in thousands of feet. So, who was Robin Pendry, and what was she doing on that mountain? Robin Pendry was 33 years old. She was from Enumclaw, Washington, a small town at the foot of the Cascades. In her life, she had been not one thing, not 2 things, but 3 or 4 things simultaneously, and she was exceptional at all of them. She was an emergency room nurse in Seattle, someone who spent years working in a trauma environment where staying calm under pressure was not a skill to develop. It was a requirement for survival. She was a ski patroller at Crystal Mountain, and a certified avalanche forecaster who contributed her expertise to the Northwest Avalanche Center. And she was a professional mountain guide, a senior member of the team at Alpine Ascents International in Seattle, one of the most respected mountaineering guiding companies in the Pacific Northwest. That is the equivalent of having an elite trauma nurse, a trained avalanche specialist, and an experienced summit guide all in one person, on a mountain that can need all 3 at the same time. She had been guiding climbs on Mount McKinley specifically since she joined Alpine Ascents in 2015. By the time of her death, she had personally guided 3 expeditions on the mountain. She knew Mount McKinley not as a landmark, but as a working environment, the kind of knowledge that only comes from guiding other people's lives through it. In 2024, she joined the National Park Service as a seasonal mountaineering ranger assigned to the mountain. It was her 2nd year in that role when she died. She was there, on the mountain in June of 2026, for one reason: to keep other people safe. That detail is worth sitting with. The 2026 climbing season began the way most Mount McKinley seasons begin. Teams arrived in Talkeetna in late April, boarded small ski planes for the flight onto the Kahiltna Glacier at 7,200 feet, and began the long ascent through established camps over the course of 2 to 3 weeks. The standard trip takes about 17 days for a competent team, with rest days built in for acclimatization. As May progressed, climbers were moving through the camps in sequence. The 14,000-foot camp, where Pendry was stationed, is one of the most significant waypoints on the West Buttress route. It sits at the base of the headwall, the steepest section of the standard route, and serves as the last major camp before climbers push toward the high camp at 17,200 feet. Teams rest there for days at a time, sometimes longer, waiting for weather windows and letting their bodies adjust to the altitude. It is the operational heart of the mountain. 2 National Park Service rangers were in charge of the 14,000-foot camp in early June. Rob and Pendry was one of them. Their job was to manage climber safety, coordinate with higher camps, and conduct regular patrols of the surrounding terrain. This was physically demanding, logistically complex work. Pendry had done it before. This was her second season. And then, in the last week of May, the season broke open. On the night of May 27th, 4 members of a Latvian mountaineering expedition fell on a steep and exposed slope approaching the high pass at 18,200 feet. This stretch is known among guides as the Autobahn, a section notorious for its unprotected exposure, where a slip without anchors can send a climber hundreds of feet down with nothing to stop them. 3 of the 4 who fell, Inez Pucheka, Vija Olte, and Renars Koenig Salax, did not survive. The 4th, Martins Bilzens, was evacuated in critical condition by helicopter. 2 members of the surviving team came off the mountain with frostbite. Then, on May 31st, a separate climber died near the summit at about 18,700 feet after suffering a medical emergency during descent. 4 deaths, 8 days. The rescue teams were working. The park was issuing statements. The community was absorbing the losses. By the morning of June 4th, Robin Pendry was doing exactly what she had trained to do. The patrol schedule was active. The camp was running. From her position at 14,000 feet, everything was in order. Then, everything changed. June 4th, 2026, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Robin Pendry is on a climbing patrol near the 14,000-foot camp. This is routine, standard. The kind of work she has done dozens of times before, on this mountain and on others. Then she falls into a crevasse. National Park Service personnel nearby respond immediately. They begin rescue efforts. They work as fast as the terrain and altitude allow. She does not survive. The National Park Service confirmed the death in an official statement released the following day. The investigation into the exact circumstances of the fall is ongoing. Officials have not yet released the specific sequence of events inside those few minutes. We do not know, as of this recording, the precise terrain feature involved, or every detail of what the patrol looked like in the moments before she fell. What we know is this. At 2 in the afternoon on June 4th, Robin Pendry, a 33-year-old ranger who had spent 11 years dedicating her professional life to the mountains of the Pacific Northwest, fell into the glacier and did not come back. Superintendent Brooke Merrill spoke for the park in an official statement, saying that mountaineering rangers dedicate themselves to serving visitors and helping others in one of the most challenging environments in the world. She called the loss devastating. The part that no official statement can fully capture is the specific weight of who was lost. This was not someone who had stumbled onto a dangerous mountain unprepared. This was someone the mountain had trusted to help run it. You already know the outcome. What you may not fully understand yet is what it cost. To understand what happened to Robin Pendry, you need to understand what a crevasse actually is. A crevasse is a crack in a glacier, not a small crack, not a gap you step over. Crevasses on the glaciated terrain surrounding the 14,000-foot camp on Mount McKinley can be tens of feet wide and hundreds of feet deep. They form because glaciers are not static. They move slowly and constantly, and the ice fractures under that movement. They are a structural feature of the mountain itself. The dangerous part is what happens on the surface above them. Snow bridges form when windblown snow accumulates over the top of a crevasse. These bridges can look completely solid. From above, standing on the surface in crampons, they can appear identical to the surrounding glacier. The difference between solid ground and a 100-foot void can be invisible. Standard practice on glaciated terrain is to travel rope to your partners so that if one person falls through, the others can arrest the fall. Experienced mountaineers also learn to read terrain, watching for subtle sags or discoloration in the snow that hint at a void beneath. Rangers who have patrolled a route for multiple seasons develop an intuitive feel for where the risks are concentrated. But glaciers shift from year to year. A section that was stable in 2024 is not guaranteed to be stable in 2026. The investigation into Pendry's fall has not yet confirmed the specific nature of the terrain feature she encountered. What the National Park Service has said publicly is simple. She fell. The rescue came immediately. It was not enough. May 27th. The high pass at 18,000 feet. 4 climbers fall, 3 are dead. 1 is evacuated in critical condition. May 31st. A climber suffers a medical emergency near the summit. He does not survive the descent. 4 deaths, 8 days. 516 climbers registered on the mountain. June 4th, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 14,000 feet. Robin Pendry steps out on patrol. She falls. Park personnel respond within minutes. The rescue is immediate. It is everything a trained team can offer in that terrain, at that altitude. She does not survive. The park releases a statement. A ranger, a guide, a nurse, a ski patroller, an avalanche forecaster. 33 years old. From Enumclaw, Washington. 5 deaths on Mount McKinley. 8 days. Quick heads up. Every week I drop a new update you will not find anywhere else. Please subscribe. The response from the climbing and outdoor community was immediate and grief-stricken. Alpine Ascents International confirmed the loss of one of their guides. Gordon Jano, the director of programs, described the loss as devastating. He said Pendry was the consummate professional, compassionate, and thorough, with what he called an infectious love for the mountains. Dallas Glass, who worked alongside Pendry for more than a decade and now serves as deputy director of the Northwest Avalanche Forecasting Center, said she was humble, strong, and kind. He said the small community of people who work as mountain guides and avalanche forecasters was coming together to support one another in a moment none of them had words for. Crystal Mountain, where Pendry had served as a ski patroller for years, released a statement calling her a beloved member of the Pacific Northwest mountain community. She was 33 years old. When you lay the 2026 Mount McKinley season in sequence, a clear picture begins to emerge. The first contributing factor is the nature of the mountain itself. Mount McKinley combines high altitude, extreme cold, dynamic glacial terrain, and rapid weather shifts in a way that makes it one of the most technically demanding mountains in the world. Unlike many high-altitude peaks, its dangers are not primarily about crowds or altitude sickness. They are structural. The glacier moves. The snow bridges form over voids. The terrain is actively changing beneath the route. The second factor is the concentration of fatalities in a narrow window. In 2025, the entire climbing season saw 2 deaths. 5 deaths in 8 days represents a statistical outlier by any measure. Whether specific weather patterns, route conditions, or a sequence of compounding circumstances contributed is something the ongoing investigations may eventually clarify. The third factor, and perhaps the most significant for the broader conversation now happening in the climbing community, is the structural risk embedded in ranger patrol work. Mountaineering rangers on Mount McKinley are not administrators watching from a distance. They are on the glacier. They are moving through the same crevasse fields, the same exposed slopes, the same terrain as the climbers they are there to protect. The assumption that experience fully insulates a person from the randomness of glacial terrain is, as June 4th made tragically clear, not always correct. The investigation into Robin Pendry's death continues. The full circumstances have not yet been confirmed publicly. What has been confirmed is who she was, what she had given to this mountain and to the people on it, and the mountain, as it always does, kept the rest. Robin Pendry did not die because she was reckless. She did not die because she was inexperienced or unprepared. She died on a glacier, on a mountain she had devoted years of her life to, doing the job she had chosen specifically to protect the people around her. Mount McKinley does not distinguish between the people climbing it and the people there to keep the climbers safe. Do you think the National Park Service's mountaineering ranger program exposes its people to risks that are simply unavoidable on a mountain like this? Or is there a case to be made that something should be done differently? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one.